Hey, what's good? Welcome back to TechScriptAid, and today we are covering part 2. This is in connection with the part 1 where I had shown you enterprise front-end DX setup. Okay, those who have not seen, they can go watch this because this part 2 is the backend. That was the front end which I covered, and this is the backend. Here, this is also not only the backend but agentic agent primer. We'll be covering not only the backend, which consists of Strapi 5 and Postgres as my DB. This video serves as a primer for agentic agent development, helping developers to understand how production grade tooling overlaps with the real world AI agent systems. So let's zoom out first and see how these agentic agents are the next gen AI apps. So about the backend Postgres which I'm using here, that gives a long-term structured memory which other databases don't have. Plus I'll also show you why exactly I'm using it with all the technical aspects. So what all are the main criteria for which I had chosen Postgres, and I feel like it is a kind of a generic decision which I had taken. I mean, if you want something different as per your requirement, then I'm ready for one-to-one, and I can suggest you and advise you which will suit the best for your requirement, and we'll work that out. But in this case, I'm showing a generic solution. All I want to tell you is this project is your launchpad for agentic agent stack. Coming on to the architecture overview. Okay, so here first I'll just show you this vertical slice architecture which I have. Here you can see my features. So inside the features I have components, right, all in one for this contact module, yeah, and hooks and schema, services, all in one vertical slice. Okay, yeah. So same thing I had shown you earlier also in my last video. So just I'm giving you heads up that we are covering the backend using this front end. So in the backend I have here with me, I had implemented Strapi 5. So please note this is Strapi 5, not any earlier version. Okay, and here you can see I'll go in detail. So this is just an overview I'm giving you here so that you will get a heads up. And see here clearly in this in Strapi 5 we have a config, and in that directory we can specify the database, middleware you can use or not. I mean, it all depends how you want to use it. So this is our server file, so this is admin.ts. And one more thing here I want to tell, don't worry, we are going deeper. So this is just an overview I'm giving you. Okay, so before coming to the architecture of this project, I just want to show that. So here I have this middleware, so that's in a different way. So here I'm using middleware for log request, for payload sanitization. So this is how it is used. So don't confuse things here. I'll clarify each and everything coming like from, suppose if you want to know what this one is doing. So here a lot of things are there, but because this is a kind of new CMS which is a headless CMS. Okay, so especially this is very useful not only in normal aspects, but in case you want to develop programmatic SEO, how my real life the website which is TechScriptAid, how that works. In that I had developed a blog inside that, and I'm using this programmatic approach for SEO. So this is just one of the specification I told you. There are many other things which are very good about this Strapi. Let's start with the architecture view first. So in the architecture overview, on the front end we are using app router, React hook form. So this already I covered, but I'm just giving again a small recap so that those who have not watched that video should not be getting a vague thing that what is going on here, or those who are new to these technologies should be getting again something which may be useful for them to understand how it goes. So in that we had covered not only the app routers, the React hook form, the stand, and Zord. Everything is modular and collocated as per the features which are there. Like I had shown you feature wise, like I have a contact feature, like and similarly you can develop some other features like blog feature, like any other functionality that can come as a feature here. Okay, so we call this vertical slicing. So the backend is Strapi 5 with Prisma replacing the traditional ORM. Okay, so I'll tell you, I will go to the ORMs also. So what all are the ones which are by default used in Strapi 5 and the Prisma which we are using here. So Postgres actually gives the solid persistence, and here I'm using custom routes and not relying on Strapi APIs. This project introduced critical backend infrastructure. So this is where I want to emphasize here, and front-end scaffolding that would be used as part of real-world agentic agent system in production. Okay, I guess let's give a brief introduction for the front end also, even though I had covered in the previous video, but here as it's there, so I want to just a little bit brief I can give. So what happens here, the user fills out a form using React form. So here Zord validates the input. The stand tracks global UI state via use contact store TS file, which is here, as you can see in my vertical slice, right? You can see here all the validations, like name is short or invalid email address, message should be at least 10 correct. So all these things are covered here using this stand, where we manage is submitting flag. Okay, so this is a file use contact store.ts where we are managing the is submitting, right? You can see. So this is the flag I had made while the user submits. Then my service, which is contact.ts in the service directory above that in the vertical slice, sends data. Then my service sends the data to my API route. So I'm covering also the full stack interaction, and I can show you how the object interaction between layer is happening. Okay, so starting from my contact.tsx form, which is here, this one, yeah, as you can see. So this contact.tsx form submits form input. So when user submits the form, then it triggers the use contact form.ts. So it triggers the logic from the hook, which is from use contact form, this one, yeah, and the stand is in use here. Okay, that is this custom hook which I had made here, like the one which I'm showing in this current. So this custom hook manages validation and mutation logic. Form component that I just shown you in this contact form.tsx file, this uses use form method from React hook form, that is my RHF. Okay, and Zord resolver transforms raw data form values into structured objects for validation. The Zord resolver is the key part of integrating Zord with form validation libraries like React hook form, vvalidate, and some other similar utilities like this. So role of Zord schema validates and produces a type payload. Actually, this is my payload. If I talk about these three things, as you can see in my, okay, I'm just sharing my screen now. As you can see in my screen, this is my payload actually. Here in the form I'm using name, email, and message as my contact form. So this constitutes my payload. So I'll be referring this also in my video here. So that's why I'm giving you a clean clarity on this, so that those who are not familiar with these terms would also be able to get the idea what I am doing. Okay, so what the stand does is it tracks global UI states like loading, success, etc. Then all state is clearly managed, and I shown you in my previous video by doing debugging, live debugging via debug, that dev debug panel, which is still here. Okay, this one, if you remember. Okay, those who have not seen, they can go and watch the video. So now on submit event in the form that triggers the handle submit, which validates input, calls API method from services, and sends payload to API contact in Strapi. So here is my backend. So this is in my API directory, and you can see the directory structure here also. Just notice how I made this. Okay, so this is my custom controller. Here this is my ts contact.ts file which I'm referring to. So once payload is sent from the front end to API, to this API, actually that is this API which I am referring to in Strapi. So this is the part of a Strapi which I am currently showing you, right? So from the front end with the RHF form submits, it triggers the contact.ts for API call. So yeah, I need to explain here the payload lifecycle also, which I want to cover. So even though this video is all about the backend, but still I want to cover some of the aspects of the front end which I had, I think, missed out in my earlier video when I was covering the DX setup part, because it was more focused on the scaffolders and the code generators, if you remember. Okay, yeah. So let me give you overview and explain what payload lifecycle is all about. Let's take an instance where I had validated form data that is sent via services, that is my contact.ts file, to the backend endpoint that is inside my APIs where my contact module resides. So that is mapped manually, giving control to the controller itself. Okay, then controller extracts the payload and passes it through the DTO, and the services uses Prisma to write into DB. So the Prisma writes to the DB. Here in my scenario, it is the PostgreSQL which I am using. Okay, so in this way, starting from form data, I am handling in use contact form, Zod validates and ensure type, the stand tracks UI state, services triggers fetch, and then the custom API routes in backend receives it. Next comes the controller part. So controller extracts the HTTP request object and passes to DTO. DTOs validate and transform this input before it is passed to the service layer. So the DTO is doing two things here. One is validation and another is transformation. So validation it is doing with Zod using the schema, and transformation is something like trim strings, convert formats, remove junks, as I shown you in the file also. So I am using here Zod schemas as my de facto DTOs. So when the custom backend route, like here my API where my, again telling the where my contact module resides, receives the post request, the controller gets access to the HTTP object. Specifically, controller extracts context request body data. Okay, if you write context.request.body.data, then you will be getting this HTTP object, okay, using this. So in my project, Strapi 5 uses custom route. So here, this is my context, you can see, right? This is my context, wherever you can say this is my context. Okay, current context object from, actually where it is coming from, it is coming from Koa. So that resides underlying the Strapi framework. Okay, this is where the Strapi library I'm using. So this is where it resides. So it is coming from here. Okay, so then what comes next is my services part here. So services layer uses Prisma to save in database. So what good is, it is cleaned type data which is passed to the service which writes to DB via Prisma. Then confirmation returned to the front end showing the success message. So let me execute this project using yarn. This is my yarn command, yarn develop. Okay, so for backend I'm using develop, for frontend I'm using dev. So here I'm using yarn develop to execute it, as you can see in my terminal. Strapi is starting here. So what it does is it creates a dist directory here while compiling all the files into the JS. So this is again the same files you can see in the config, it is the admin API, and in the source exactly all the files. What it will do, it will compile this into the JS file which is the readable for their engine. Okay, the dist folder, don't worry, it will contain the same file, but with all extensions of JavaScript, and the same directory structure, with the same project structure also. This is for the use of the underlying Strapi libraries. It is taking some time. So it's showing that it is cleaning this directory and now loading the Strapi. So don't worry if it take time, because if you are doing it for the first time, it will take some time. And then, so like you can see now, it has created admin path, all the backend URLs. So yeah, so here I am using env file, you can see. So while it is loading, I can show you, this is my env. So this contains all my database URLs. So all my database configuration, like, so what I am using, what client I am using, what is the name of my DB, what is username, password, and these are the some JWT secret which used by my API when communicating with the front end, and some security, other security reasons I'm using app keys also, which you guys also will be using the same. And you can generate this using any tool you want or any online utility you have, it doesn't matter. So here I'm ready with my local host, it is serving me on 1337 port, and you can see now. Okay, so this is the pre-login landing page of my Strapi. So here you can see this is kind of dashboard in the front, because I don't have any last published entries, so this is blank, and these are my last edited entries. So 2 entries I made here. So before going something, I'll just show you the content type builder. Those who have not seen, so for them it is very interesting thing. So here, how do I create any form or any screen in the CMS in the backend, like for the admin? Some people who are using admin sections, or who are not using the full web technologies. I mean to say, some of you may be using the web applications, but may not be using the CMS, full CMS, but maybe using only the admin panels, something like that. So for them, this is a similar kind of thing, where you can create your own forms using any fields here. Okay, suppose I need to create a new one, so I will go to custom types. Okay, so I can write any name. Okay, so suppose I want to demo. Okay, so let's take the name as demo. So this API ID, this takes a singular plural, because so the API ID here, this one you will be using for accessing this API to use in your front end. Okay, or to expose it for some other application. Okay, so once you are done, so now already contact was there, now it created a demo. So similarly, you can add new fields here, like how did I had done in contact. So here you have got a lot of choices for you. We have some more things here, you can explore it out yourself, that will be much better. And you can also add some custom fields. Okay, so this way I had made this form, as you can see. So if you want to add some more validation in the CMS part, that also you can do here. Yeah, here, like you can make it a required field, maximum length it should, what maximum length it should take, you can specify here. And whether it's a private field or not, that you can mention, because it will be useful for your API response. Okay, and similarly there are also some other validation. And so once you made any new content type using the content type builder, then the next step is that you can use the content manager here, yeah, to see what current data is there. And if you want to add new data from the CMS itself without using your form, then also you can enter here some data, like, okay, here I'll save this, you can see it is saved. And yeah, now we come to the settings part. So suppose you created content type here, then what you need to do is you need to come to the user permission plugin section, and here in the roles, so go to public here, this one I'm clicking here, I'm selecting. So suppose this one we created like contact, okay, already. So here you need to check for this create method. Okay, Otherwise, normally it will work, but when user will submit the form will not save and throw an error. Then you will be wondering what this error is, because everything will be otherwise fine. So, okay. So once, why it is not showing the other one, the demo one, I guess. Why? Because there is no data. Once you enter the data, then it will show that also. And it is not ready because we haven't set any fields here. So that's why it is not showing. I'll share you with all the code, the backend code, especially GitHub, and I'll share the link. Like, yeah, I want to show you one more thing in the backend. So now it's working, so we are not getting any errors. So we seen like this. Okay. Yeah, I will also run my front end and show you how my form works. Yeah, because here one more thing. So you have noticed I am using two different instances of Visual Studio. Not Visual Studio, this is my VS Code actually. So this is my front end, but if you want, you can show it in this same project here only in this view, in your Explorer view, where both the projects will be shown. Like, this is my front end, this is back end. So for that you have to use workspace. So if you want to open both the front end and back end in the same Explorer window, you need not open two different projects. You can just write this thing in your file and save it as code workspace, where you will mention the folder names. I mean, the folder names here refers to your front end directory and the path you, and same with the backend. So I suggest you keep your both the front and backend directories in the same root directory. And this file also I'll push it in the GitHub, okay, so that if anyone wants to use it, they can modify this also. Now coming on to front end, let me run this using yarn. So this is running now. This will run very quickly as compared to that backend. Yeah, you can see. Okay, so here if I write my name as, yeah, so it shows message sent. And let me check in my DB. Here we got, yeah. And I can further update also. So in the backend, now let me show you the Prisma. Okay, so I'm using Prisma as my ORM here, as you can see, this one. Okay, so here what exactly it is doing. So basically, so if I'm not using Prisma, so what's there by default in the Strapi is either bookshelf or Next, so which I had replaced here with the Prisma. So Prisma gives type models, so you can see it is very type safe, especially for TypeScript. If I'm using TypeScript, so here I'm using TypeScript, so that's why. And good for relations and better DX. So in my implementation, like, you can write strapi.db.client.contact.create. so this create method is how we persist the validated data. So Prisma handles schema migration and let auto completion, types, and improved clarity. So yeah, why I have chosen Prisma here, because bookshelf or Next are JavaScript based ORMs, so that are lacking in native TypeScript, because TypeScript are nowadays everywhere. So it gives the better support and auto completion features which otherwise are not there. And also Prisma is a TypeScript first ORM, so it auto generates the fully typed client methods based on our schema. And I'll show you how you can quickly update your schema from your code, and changes will be reflected in the backend. Okay, so my project uses Prisma, and as a drop-in replacement for Next bookshelf. Once again I'm telling, because I want a better DX experience and with less boilerplate code. Okay, so basically how Prisma works here, this is where I want to go in bit in depth. In my actual code, Prisma is used in APIs inside the controller. Okay, but I'm not using it we always using the strapi.db.client .contact.create like I had shown you, but that you can, yeah, if you want to totally depend on the Prisma using, you can use with that, you can use the await method, and then your data, but all your data, like in my case it is name, email and message. So this directly writes to the Postgres database, ensuring schema safety. Okay, using typed payload enforcement, then raw SQL or Next. That is the main thing. It uses the cleaner queries, and there is a lot of query help which we'll get using the Prisma. But in this is only useful when there is a lot of pagination, especially in those kind of scenarios or some other scenarios where you need to write some lot of other custom queries to handle various small functionalities or features. Okay, so behind the scenes Prisma reads the Prisma schema file. Okay, so this is the schema file, so it reads this file based on where you are implementing it. So here I defined my model as this one, model contact ID, name, email, message as per my contact form. And okay, so running this command will update Postgres based on any schema changes that you have done in your code. So also Prisma also generate types under node modules Prisma client, so that if we see, you can check it under node modules for that if you want. Okay, now one main thing which I want to cover here is the Postgres. Yeah, because the DB connectivity is the main thing here, because this will also be used if you are going to develop agentic agent. Okay, so Postgres integrates tightly with Strapi 5 and Prisma, configured via config. So what exactly is the benefit which we are getting from Postgres? Because it provides us with the persistent memory layer, because of that we are using it. So anyone who had heard about PG vectors or something, right? PG vectors, especially while developing agents. So that is where it is capable of handling those types, okay, which SQL Server or other databases cannot handle those because it is not there. So Postgres isn't just a database, it's a memory layer for your AI infrastructure. So this is my env file here. So you can use this file or you can change it accordingly. And one more thing which is in the config database.ts. As you can see, I am using Postgres as my client, but you can change it accordingly if you want to use SQLite or some other DB like MongoDB or SQL Server. So you can set a logic where if you are in development, then it will be using SQLite, and if you're in production, it will be using your Postgres SQL. I think I had given you this command for migration using, so if you are using Prisma, you can use this command, okay, npx Prisma migrate dev. So what it will do, all your changes, if you are doing some changes on your front end code, if you are changing the schema in your code, then you can use this command. So it will update the DB as well with that schema. Yeah, I want to now the last thing, coming on to the railways. Okay, so have you ever seen railway? Many of you have not seen, I know. Actually here I am showing my production scene here. So already I had already deployed my front end here and backend here. These are working as, so this based on platform as a service. So railway works on this principle of platform as a service. So this is my DB. Okay, so if I click on my DB, so this is where it will show my tables. Okay, backups, deployments. Yeah, so this is directly taking from my local code, and when my local code goes to GitHub, when I push it to GitHub, it directly picks up from there and do the deployment. So if in case deployment is fine, then it will show it as active deployment, as successful deployment. Otherwise it will not do at all. So it will not pile up onto the previous deployment if something is wrong, if deployment is failing. Okay, so then it will show the failed deployment, but my live application will keep running with my previous deployments. Okay, so similar is the case with backend and front end. Okay, so I'm not showing here show some of my sensitive information which I don't want to use. So here I'm using this volume, extra volume. Why I'm using it? Because of my images I'm using this volume. Okay, so this way you can, so here you can see this is my login which I used from my GitHub account. Same login I can use here, so that all my repos, the one which I want, that I can access here. Others I don't want to access here. Okay, so there are many things which you can watch here, like logs and all, right? You can create like this. It is easy only, so it will show you the deployments I had done in the past. This is a way I had deployed everything, and same way now we'll be deploying. So if you are making agentic agent, so same way we'll be deploying that also here. Okay, so I'll show you the real power of Railway, what more it can do. There are some other I can also show you one small thing, how I am maintaining my variables. So here these are all .env from my env files. So here I'm using. So this is how you can use the environment variables here from your file, from your front and back end, so that it will interact with the same variable names across the applications. Okay, so I think I had covered now. So here with this, it is not only I had covered the backend, but I had shown you a primer for agentic agent development. So here now it's a crossover. I had shown you agentic agent primer and the backend part also, and in part 2. So this defines our infrastructure part of the agentic agent development. So here we are covering that, plus we'll cover more in depth when I'll be going to agentic agent development. So now this is kind of crossover video where we have not only covered the backend but also the agentic agent infrastructure part. Okay, for the development. Learned especially using the Postgres, which holds our context memory, and where our front end Next.js serves UI plus config portals, and where Prisma I had shown you, which helps manage structural knowledge graphs, and Strapi that gives rapid backend extensions with role-based access control support. So this stack is your sandbox for building autonomous tools, especially for agentic agent development use. So now you are ready to build great things. So now you are equipped not just to build full stack app, but future facing agent ready system. So let's together build for autonomy. Thanks for watching, and do subscribe my channel. Bye.